I hear over and over again that buyers think that the way that sales is treating them is the way they're going to be treated by that company forever.
Exactly. That is literally what happened during our buying process. So we started by saying, oh, this rep's not very good. Because, you're doing a competitive process. Everybody else is responding same day or one day later. And then you have one that's continuously responding 3 days later. At some point, it flipped from this rep is bad to, wait, maybe their product is bad. Wait, maybe their company is a mess. And this is a startup. We're about to bet all of our customer data and CRM on this thing, but we can't really trust them.
Okay,
Right.
that was so good.
The whole series is about exploring how people's buying decision takes place from like the moment something becomes necessary to a final
Totally.
decision.
My name is Jenelle Knuth from Demand Gen with a J, and I'm here with my partner, Drew Giovanelli from Buried Winds.
You said, last month I tried to buy an AI native CRM, but the rep sales process was so bad I bought HubSpot instead. I went in ready to buy. I had budget, authority, and urgency. And then you went in a different direction.
Yeah.
Which is wild. Let me introduce you. Your name is Jaleh Rezaei, and you're the CEO and co-founder of Mutiny. And you were recently exploring CRMs. Start off by telling us about the problem you were facing. Like, why were you even looking in the first place? And we'll get going from there.
Great. We had done a big reset on our product and the company, and I wanted to do a similar reset on our go-to-market stack. And it was a really good time. It felt like enough time had passed since AI emerged that there should have been a really good AI native CRM out there. And so we kind of went out and for every tool that we had in our stack, we said, what is the AI native version of this? And started searching for them. And the CRM was our top priority because the most number of things plug into it and it impacts our productivity the most.
Great. And were you on HubSpot to begin with?
We had HubSpot for marketing,
Mm-hmm.
and we were considering HubSpot as one of the options for CRM. It was a really good lesson in consolidation. I feel like when we're selling things to customers, they're always asking us about, oh, well, we don't want to get one more new thing. So why should we get it? And I don't think you fully appreciate that until you are sitting on the other side. The gravity of, oh, but all of our stuff is already in HubSpot. And it just feels like the much easier decision to just buy one more feature or capability from an existing vendor than it does in our case, HubSpot wasn't even the status quo. We just had marketing through HubSpot. And still it was a massive counterforce for all of the new products that we were evaluating.
Got it. And you were moving off of what CRM to start with?
Salesforce.
Salesforce. When you went to go into market, you wanted AI native solutions. What did you find? What were some of the other options you evaluated?
So someone recommended Adio, somebody else recommended Clarify. I put a post in YC asking, hey, what are all the startups using for CRM? And a bunch of people on our team, they sent text messages to folks that they knew in similar roles. And that's how the rest of the list emerged.
Sure. Now, you had a vendor you were ready to buy, and from your LinkedIn post, the sales experience really turned you away. Can you walk us through what happened?
Yes. We are a pretty sophisticated buyer in the sense that we don't have a lot of time and we know what we want. And so typically, the first interaction is not a demo. The first interaction is, here's our criteria. This is what we're trying to do. Send me back a loom that explains how your product, just critique yourself. Like, these are the 5 use cases. Give me red, green, yellow on how well you hit these, and tell me what wows your customers. So for the customers that love your product, can you help us understand why? And when you lose deals, can you help us understand why? Just to get our head, we know every product comes with trade-offs, and I'm comfortable with that. I just want to know if the strengths and weaknesses match up. And so the first interaction was a couple of these emails, and then about a week in, then we did a call with the team so that we could see a much more focused demo that we hadn't already teased apart from the looms and stuff. Now, in terms of what didn't go well, everything, I would say responsiveness, it was a huge problem in the process. Everything was a day late and a dollar short, right? So it's like, hey, can you send us a loom, walking through this? You would send us a loom of a generic webinar as opposed to actually walking through the product and sending us that. Or, we had a list of questions once we did the demo and we're evaluating a bunch of different competitors. And so we were very direct. We're evaluating this against this competitor. Can you tell us how you're different? Can you tell us we're very confused about this one use case, or we don't know how this integrates? And I would say the answers to everything was always 2 to 3 days later. And everything started with sincere apologies for the delay. I think if you're a sales rep, you should just never have emails that you start with sincere apologies for the delay. With someone who is coming in, is the budget owner, is telling you they're trying to make a decision in 3 weeks and are clearly very much ready to buy. All you have to do is beat the competitors in that situation.
Did anybody who you sent that email to with the request for the loom, did anybody reframe your thinking around, here's what you asked for, but maybe here's one thing you didn't ask for that based on your other answers, I was surprised not to see? Like, or was it more of a, you asked for this, here's your answers type of response?
I would say it was mostly a direct response to the questions. And I think what you're getting at is a really important point of, as a buyer, even though we know what we want, I often learn a lot during the process about, well, maybe there's these other things that we should care about. And those have always come from a sales rep that was really good at understanding my pain and then helping me see something that I wasn't seeing before of, hey, you're actually going to end up spending way more. I know you care about time and you're looking at these things for time savings, but actually the biggest time savings comes from this whole other thing. And this is, so there wasn't really any reframing like that in the process, but I really do like it when reps do it. The tricky part of it is it really has to connect to my pain points. Otherwise, it feels a little bit like, here's this random other thing that you don't really care about, and you just kind of listen and nod, but it doesn't have the desired effect.
Totally. It's like a pattern matching, right? If I see you asking these things, but I don't see this, it's a mismatch of the pattern. So it has to connect. And then I guess my second question to that is, based on the answers you did receive days later, how similar were the answers vendor to vendor? Like, was there clear established differentiation in the capabilities of the product or the way that they spoke about the capabilities? I guess at that point, like, how are you viewing vendor versus vendor where they were differentiated?
Totally. So one of the most illuminating things going through this process, I was telling Drew before we started, is I grew a lot of empathy for the buyer. And I think all of us walked away saying, wow, we're going to make changes to our own buying process, because now that we've sat on the other side, we understand how stressful and hard it is to make the correct decisions when you're going through it. And I think a huge part of it is around competitors, just understanding what is the difference between these tools and what's going to make sense. And I would say across all of the reps, nobody gave us a great answer for the differences between them. The answers were very high level. We didn't really, or it was a high level principle, but you don't really understand, well, what does that really mean, right? So like, for instance, one of the answers they gave us was like, well, we are AI native. We're built to be AI native. We were built recently, therefore we're AI native. And it's like, but what does that mean? Like, what features, what can I not do
Yes.
because they're not AI native? Or what can I do that I couldn't do? And so teasing that stuff apart was really hard. And I think in the defense of the reps, it's really hard to know your competitor products inside and out. Often product marketing or somebody else does that evaluation and then gives you messaging talking points. And I think as a buyer, when we were hearing those messaging talking points, we just really wanted to peel back. Like, I almost wanted to talk to the product marketer who created the messaging and say, well, what did you see? Like, what were the features? And so we kind of went back and like redid all of our own competitive examples and answers based on what we learned.
This is Buyer Truths, a research project about how tech buyers make decisions and what it means for how you sell. We surveyed 172 software buyers across mid-market and enterprise about real decisions they made in the past year, and all of the data is ungated and free.
My name is Jen Allen Knuth from Demand Gen with a J, and I'm here with my partner, Drew Giovanelli from Buried Wins. After you've learned how buyers make decisions in 2026, let us help you win yours. If you're losing deals to competitors you should beat, Buried Wins will tell you why. They do win-loss interviews with buyers you lost, prospects who never even considered you, and even reach out to the former sellers of your competitors. Learn more at buriedwins.com.
And if you're losing to buyer status quo, Demand Gen will train your team to earn executive attention in outbound, lead status quo busting discovery conversations, and drive consensus with larger buying committees. Check out demandgenwithaj.com.
You mentioned something, you mentioned two things, and you kind of just set off this light bulb moment for me. And I'm loving what you're sharing because it's such good buyer perspective. You mentioned in the beginning, a year ago, AI research wasn't what it was today. And now it's much more of a part of how you naturally research solutions. You also mentioned many sellers are at the mercy of like what they are given for competitive differentiation from the marketing team. But I wonder, like, as you were talking, there is much more of an ability for us now to research like we were a buyer, right? So even if I have outdated competitive intel, right? Is there any reason why I, as a salesperson, couldn't say, here's her use case based on what questions she asked? How would my competitors likely answer these questions? Like, what would I likely be competing against? Recognize it'll probably be imperfect information, but I wonder, like, if reps are taking that step to mirror the buyer's learning journey versus just try to answer the questions to the best of their ability, or if that's even a good idea.
I think that's spot on. And I think that's a great idea. And you can already do this in any, in any chat AI tool. You can even upload a couple of call transcripts and then have them role play the meeting that you're in. I think that'll definitely help a lot with reps, and it's probably not a step that everybody's taking. I will say, I also have a lot of empathy for reps. They have so many meetings that they have to be in. And, even the rep from the example that I mentioned where we ended up not buying, the, the odds are that that rep probably was not really bad. The odds are that he wasn't equipped with the right information inside the company, right? You can have all the ads in the world, the website, all that stuff. And I've led marketing teams. I know how precious we are about those things in our brand, but I cannot stress enough, a human interaction is 100 times more powerful and memorable as an impression of your brand. And so investing in the rep's ability to be an extension of the company's brand is one of the most important investments that everybody in GTM can make, I think.
Yeah, I want to jump on that. We've done at Buried Wins over 1,000 interviews for like win-loss in the past 3 years. And I think one of the greatest undervalued pieces of sales is that I hear over and over again that buyers think that the way that sales is treating them is the way they're going to be treated by that company forever.
Exactly. That is literally what happened during our buying process. So we started by saying, oh, this rep's not very good. Because, you're doing a competitive process. Everybody else is responding same day or one day later. And then you have one that's continuously responding 3 days later. You're going to notice that, right? So like, oh, he's just kind of slow and maybe this rep is just not very good, but we're excited about the product. We think it has a lot of promise. We still want to buy that one. At some point, it flipped from this rep is bad to, wait, maybe their product is bad. Wait, maybe their company is a mess. And this is a startup. We're about to bet, all of our customer data and CRM on this thing, but we can't really trust them. So those things are indistinguishable to the customer, like the rep, the product, the brand, the company, it's all the same thing. And the rep is just simply the window into that process, which is why you see really great reps able to sell really crappy products because they're just so good. Yeah. And the customer is just like, I just want to buy from you. So reps have a lot of power if they're willing to go the extra mile and do that extra work. Like you mentioned, Jen, like doing the research, equipping themselves, getting on top of competitors, even if their internal marketing material isn't good. I think they can have a really big impact, especially in this market. If you look at what's happening with AI products, everyone is encroaching on everybody's territory. Every product is expanding, right? And buyers all want consolidation. They want fewer tools that they can use to solve more problems. And so reps are going into this market. And if you have a legacy product that you're selling, that's even worse because you can't even attach to AI, right? So for everybody, the market is getting a lot more competitive. And I think if as a rep, you set it as a personal OKR that I'm going to crush my competitors by just giving the best sales experience, which really comes down to responsiveness. I think that's huge. And just trust, basically. If you can build those, I think you can improve your win rate pretty substantially.
It's also the only thing within my control as a seller, right? I don't
Yeah.
control the product, the brand, any of that stuff. I do control the experience I deliver. I love that call out.
Yeah, totally. And obviously there's a lot of like AI tools and things like that are going to allow the reps to extend their own skills. Like they can now make really great assets and experiences and things that just help them stand out across. I was talking to, an AE at Rippling, and he's like, I love using these deal rooms that are just so beautifully designed and visual. And when I put that in front of my customer, I'm proud of myself. And my champion is proud, and he's proud to go share that internally. These are all just examples of ways that people can stand out.
Did the HubSpot salesperson do a great job, or were they just a safe option?
Safe option, I would say. I mean, they were fine. They were nothing noticeable. Yeah.
What that tells me is if you are going to win as a new player or a non-platform, you have to be exceptional.
Exactly. I that is exactly my conclusion as well, is if you're the 800-pound gorilla, like odds are the customer already has your marketing cloud and probably, you're the consolidation answer. You already have a leg up on everybody else in the market. If you are the new player, you have to convince them to add you to their stack, despite their extreme desire to not add any more stuff. You have to do a lot better.
I do. Jen gave me heartburn earlier, and I think it's worth calling out as a product marketer. Just the idea of, oh, yeah, let's just let our sellers do research on all competitors and bring that to the meeting themselves is like, hurts me. And the reason why, as a product marketer, is our job as product marketers is to be like a context layer to say, hey, we know we've listened to a bunch of buyer calls, we've talked directly to the product team, and you should have a good idea of what's really moving the needle on why you're winning and losing, what the competitors are doing that matters to the buyers, and how you are actually differentiated that you can like stand behind confidently. And I think the issue with competitive intelligence just through AI is they're pulling publicly available information, which is like a feature set from the website, documentation, and then comparisons that most of these competitors created themselves for SEO purposes to get grabbed as a listicle into the AI search. And so, yes, AI is an amazing tool for competitive intelligence in a way we haven't had before, like in terms of speed. But if I'm a growing organization and my sales team's having to do that independently, it tells me you have a really weak product marketing function.
Yeah, look, I think there's definitely areas where product marketing can really shine. Having really clear, short answers for your competitors, making all of these things really easy and accessible for the rep to be able to look at and learn, like all of that stuff is really important. Being on top of the competitor trends, listening to, all the calls, all that stuff. But I do think that today, this model where marketing has to make everything and then give it to the rep, and then the rep has to regurgitate it. Like, I think there's a reason reps have never liked that.
Totally.
And customers don't really like that because nothing is tailored and translated into their own. Think about how tailored our lists of questions was for that rep. Like, we have these 5 use cases. This is how many people we have on our team. This is what we're trying to do. If he had come back with, and he did in his case. I came back with a generic webinar, right? It was like, oh, now we have to spend all this time trying to map this together ourselves. So I think there's a level of personalization that has to happen at the interface with the buyer that even a great product marketing team can't do. And I think the great thing about AI is that I think as marketing teams start to think of themselves as, how do I set up infrastructure for my sellers to be really successful and get the right information at the right time and translate all of this really high quality content that I've created to the buyer? I think those are the teams that are going to win in this market.
Totally. That's how I think about it too. The product marketer's job is 10 years ago, it was to give you the battle card. Today is to load all the context into a project so that seller can prompt against it for that opportunity.
For the very specific pointed question that buyer has asked that the product marketer might not have up-leveled to the battle or something like that. Yeah.
I do think there's also value that if I can play devil's advocate in seeing what is the buyer likely seeing though, right? I want the right answers and I agree with you there. I don't want to rely on AI to tell me where my company differentiates, but I also want to know what is that fake information that they're getting that was tailored for SEO. So I know what I'm likely to be up against, whether or not it's true. I should learn from my own company, to your point. I think that's a really good call out.
That is such a good point. So I think having that context is so important because your buyer has probably gone that search and is then coming to you and you have to now counter position. The more you know about the original positioning, the better you can counter position. So great point.
Jaleh, this has been a blast. Thank you for joining us.
Great. Thank you for having me.
I could have talked to you for an hour. Pardon the interruption, but if there's one cause I love even more than helping sellers win, it's helping rescue dogs like Chungus find a home. Many Paws Global Rescue is located in Palatine, Illinois, and takes in rescue dogs of all shapes, even as thick as this, and sizes. If you're looking for a new pup to sit under your desk and help you win deals, visit manypawsglobalrescue.org.